Hello, everybody. This is Susan Clinton, one of the co-hosts of Tough to Treat. I'm here with Erica Mello.
Susan.
Hey. And so we just wanted to jump in before the podcast number 117 and give you all some timely information. First of all, we took a break last week and we're back. So we're happy to be bringing you this podcast today. And we wanted to talk just a little bit about our subscription. For those of you who know, we started a subscription to our Tough to Treat podcast, which is Tough to Treat Premium, our podcast club. And we've had some great things going on in there with our Ask Us Anything and our interview with Dr. Jessica Schwartz. So we are looking forward to another Ask Us Anything, which we have scheduled for March 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we are starting we're going to invite our subscribers to come in live. So this is an opportunity to actually ask us anything live. So you want to get the details of this in the membership for sure.
Yeah. And I think, I'm sorry, Susan.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I listen to so many podcasts, and I don't know of any podcast who does anything live like this. And this is like a live mentor session, literally, for our podcast members. And outside of the membership, Susan and I would charge for this, right? We would charge fees for this. So people who are members of our podcast club can get this as part of their membership. And this is, and we both love doing this. And so the information for all of the details is on toughtotreat.supercast.com. And if you want to join and be part of the March 31st live call or live video, please join before then.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And also we'll be dripping our next interview, which is going to be on long COVID. So, and how that affects our Tough to Treat clients. So stay tuned. Yes, it does. Stay tuned, and we will see you in the membership. Hello, everybody. This is Susan Clinton along with my co-host, Erica Mello. Welcome to podcast number 117, Tough to Treat. We're happy to be here together. How are you, Erica?
I am good. And yes, just got back from vacation. Long time coming. Always too short, right, Susan? They're always too short, but it was nice.
So I was in Florida a couple of weeks ago for the Indo Summit and got to spend some time in St. Augustine, and Erica was in the beautiful area of St. Thomas. So we both got to soak up a little sunshine.
Oh, much needed.
And now we have the longer daylight hours going on up here in northern Michigan. So all right, let's get right to it. So I'm going to talk about a client that I had as a female that came to me with pain on the back of her left heel. That was her main complaint. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. I can't get it better. She even went to a few physicians and received injections at the base of her heel, which she said did nothing. And she could point to the back of her heel, and is right at the insertion of the Achilles into the calcaneus, and just along that medial side, mostly. You could see some, tissue changes. You could see kind of some, like almost even like a little lump in there. Very, very exquisitely tender to touch. But the main complaint she had was, I can't walk for exercise. It really is bad if I get up from sitting, if I get out of bed, when I get out of bed. It's better after I ride my bike for a bit. That makes it a little bit better, but it doesn't last. So this has been going on now for 6 months.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, wow. Long time. So she, just some of her past history, she's a female, 2 pregnancies, no known issues following birth, fairly good recovery. She never really complained about anything. She is now moving into menopause. She's talking about her periods are further and further apart. She's not quite there yet, but moving into that. So you can kind of keep that in mind. I had to do some questioning with the history here because she was so focused on the back of her heel, and rightly
Yeah.
so. That
Yeah.
was the alarm bell going off. But I wanted to just figure out some other things and see if there was any other thing that might be in the history that I needed to know. No autoimmunities of any kind. And also fairly important when we think about Achilles tendinopathies is, history of shingles, and no shingles or history.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there, apparently the shingles virus can hang out in the body after you have it.
Yes.
One of its favorite places where there's a strong affinity for it is the Achilles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting in females. So
Huh.
and in males. So it's
Hmm.
not gender specific. Anyway, it took a bit of questioning to really get at some stuff. So I thought I would just keep going with okay, so you had two babies, no known issues, tell me about any incontinence, are you leaking with running, jumping, laughing, climbing trees, yelling? Nope, no problem there. However, with a lot of questioning, she did say, yes, I definitely go to the bathroom just in case, and I definitely, when I have to go, and it happens a lot. So urgency frequency is in there, so that kind of tells me the system is a bit ramped up.
Yep.
When we have that, and some discomfort with sex, not real pain, but irritable. Sometimes the tissues are irritable, and sometimes afterwards it's uncomfortable, which would go along with an over recruiting pelvic floor.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But then I finally got her to, as we were asking, I said, so any accidents or injuries that you can think of, in the past that might have impacted this. And so she sat there for a bit, and then finally she just came up with this, 10 years ago, I was in a car accident, and I actually ended up with a fracture on the outside of my right foot. And so I said, where? So she showed me it was the malleolus. She said the tip of the bone here was fractured. She said they didn't really do anything for it. They just kind of put me in a boot for a bit, and then just told me to go on and live my life. It was, she said it definitely hurt a lot, but she said she recovered fairly well from it, and this was 10 years ago.
And I was on her right foot, and her symptomatic is her left heel. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And, some back and neck pain, but that's mostly resolved. She doesn't think about it very much. Like right now, it's this left heel. It's like back to the meaningful piece here.
Yes.
So any thoughts along this line with her history or anything that you want to add in?
Well, it's funny because I've had heel pain. I've had it pretty badly. I ended up getting an injection actually because I was traveling and I needed to walk. So this is some years ago. The first thing before you started mentioning the menopause, I said, I wonder how old she is.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I was of that age at that time at Perry, and I was like, just that was my first question. And then the shingles I didn't realize. And I am wondering now, because you've mentioned the urgency and frequency, about how she's loading, loading, expanding.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, a little bit of neck and a little bit of back pain in that history since the accident, but nothing that has really caught her attention, got her to seek, care for. She doesn't even hardly mention it to anybody because she just thinks everybody has aches and pains. So, that's that.
Right. And with the history of the fracture, is she loading the opposite? I don't know. You continue.
And she's a 2-screen computer user at work, and a fairly high powered kind of pressure cooker job. So, so there's a lot kind of going in there, that goes on here. But yeah, it was interesting, about, moving from perimenopause into menopause is that time of transition hormonally. And, a lot of people will talk about if you're going to take HRT, that's the time to do it. But one of the things to kind of keep in mind is that estrogen will help muscle tissue and other tissue, but it doesn't do anything for a tendon. So, that's why we have these ladies, even on HRT, that have these hip tendinopathies and, Achilles tendinopathies and maybe even patellar tendinopathies and shoulder particularly.
Yes.
Erica and I have talked a lot about shoulders on this podcast, but, tendinopathies and shoulder pain are a big one for females around this age time. So, kind of keep that in mind as well. So anyway, moving along, we're going to get to the meaningful pieces here. So I did all of our usual movements, bend over, squats, all the things that we do, and everything she pulled to the left
Love.
every single time. She bent over as she started to bend about halfway. She shifted to the left all the way. When she squatted completely over to the left. Um, and neither one of those really bothered or made the pain in her ankle worse. The deep squat kind of did a bit, but not anything like, walking. And of course, with walking, it wasn't the heel strike, it was toe, moving
Back
to
foot.
toe off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so lunges were very telling. When she
Mm.
lunged onto the right leg, she would almost lose her balance to the left. And
Oh, interesting.
it bothered her, so at the right leg going out in front. When
Front,
she
yeah.
lunged to the left, she was fine, but she was still pulled to the left.
You mean forward lunges, Susan,
Yeah,
or
forward lunges.
forward?
Yeah,
Yeah,
forward lunges. So just your straight forward lunge.
got it.
When the left foot went out in front, she could cope better balance wise. When she did it on the right, she couldn't cope, and she was losing her balance to the left.
It's almost like the right side of her body was not
Yeah.
in her
So
act.
before I decided to strike at the right foot, because that's what's going on in my brain,
Yes, agreed.
I just kind of like clicking it up with the history, clicking it up with the idea that maybe she just quit loading on her right foot. I thought, you know what, let's repeat these again.
Mhm.
Because I was so focused on that part, I thought, I need to look elsewhere. I need to prove myself wrong here.
Right.
Let's go for the null hypothesis here.
Yes.
And as she was doing, and I started watching her movements a little bit more and talking to her as we were kind of moving, because she was very chatty and very pleasant person to be, kind of hanging out with, besides having all the pain, the pain in her heel that she was having. I noticed that she always had her head side bent to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And that stayed true through every single movement.
All of them, squats,
All of
lunges,
them, everything,
okay.
everything. And you would think maybe with the squat, her head would straighten up. Maybe with a bend over, her head would but it was always side bent to the right and it's slightly rotated to the left.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, okay, so that's interesting. And she's a double computer screen user.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can kind of keep that in mind too. There's a lot of structural reasons that she probably has that. It doesn't have to mainly mean that she was in a motor vehicle accident.
Right.
So you can't always pin it on, oh, well, there was an accident, your neck got messed up and that's what happened. It's like, I don't know, that was inconsequential to her, but what's meaningful to me is where she's spending most of her time. So anyway, I kind of thought about that just a little bit as we were working through this stuff. And I thought, I wonder if there are either A, one driver with a secondary driver, or B, two completely different drivers to the issue.
Right.
And it was interesting to me because of the urgency frequency issue as well. The system is elevated. We're moving into menopause. There's hormonal transitions going on. She has been tested, gets blood work done, does not have autoimmunity. So, fairly healthy person moving through this stuff, but has this incredible insertional kind of tendonopathy thing that's going on here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say there are so many people often dismiss old injuries, and people are like, why do you take so long to interview somebody? I'm like, because it's relevant. You have to have a hypothesis before you even touch them, before you have the move as to what your driver is. And if you do not, you have not done the narrative thoroughly. Okay. And
100%. Yeah.
And it was only 10 years ago. And I know from personal experience, I'm still on my right side after years and years and years of doing this for offloading a left lower extremity issue I had when I was on Wall Street, which is eons ago. And I still do that. So 10 years ago is not actually so different. I mean, it's so that I think is relevant.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And the other thing that I did was I definitely looked at single leg stance, as well. And again, she did fairly well on the right side. She could load that right side. And she stood on the left side. She couldn't hold her balance. and she drifted off to the left. She kept having to put her right foot down. And yes, it bothered her, but not to the point that it should have thrown her, there was a balance thing.
Yeah.
Like literally she couldn't balance on that leg, even,
On the left
left leg. Yeah. So, and again, nothing changed in the neck. It's all still kind of in that position all the time. So I thought before we get into all of this, let's take a look at her neck and her foot is where I started with her. So meaningful. I definitely looked at her left foot. We did some, some flexibility testing and, does this hurt? Does that hurt? Tell me when it comes on, because it was meaningful to her. I needed to look at that.
Yes,
sure. And, and a lot of over recruiting of that gastroc muscle, a ton of over recruiting of that gastroc muscle. Even in, with her sitting with her leg relaxed, that muscle, you could just feel it, just overworking.
Yeah. And patients need to feel felt, even if for sure or 100% positive that the left foot's not the driver, they need to feel felt, even if you do it for 1 minute. So I would have absolutely started the same way.
So so I put her gastroc on a ball while she was, sitting in, kind of long sitting a little bit. And I said, just let's put that ball underneath here and just kind of massage your muscle a little bit, because I want to show you the videos of you moving. And so I showed them to her and she was kind of like surprised, she goes, I don't feel like I'm over to one side, but clearly I am. And I said, I have a little bit of a hypothesis here. I think that there may be something going on in your right foot, ankle, that may be shifting you over, or I'm not real sure about your neck. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to tease those out because they may have a pretty good impact of why you're on this left side. And so she immediately said, I wonder if that's why I'm having this problem on my left foot and not my right foot. I said, could be, could be. So we got the buy-in there. Yeah. So, she definitely had stiffness in her talocrural joint on the right. Very stiff, did not have a posterior glide, hit all of the talus, and a lot of stiffness in her navicular, her talar navicular joint. No surprise there, really on the side of her foot a lot, in standing on that right side, kind of, but she really kind of just shifted over off of it. So it didn't really show up like that until I looked at lunge and single leg stance. And that's where you could really see it. She could load, but she really loaded on that lateral part of her foot. So, so that became kind of a focus. And then I wanted to, just for clarity's sake for that session, I wanted to check her neck, and certainly she had stiffness in her CV joints, her upper CV joints, cranial vertebral joints. And, because that pattern of right side bending and left rotation is upper cervical. Yeah. And so on the right side, she definitely was not, she was in that position quite a bit, and she couldn't side bend to the left. And she certainly couldn't side bend to the left and rotate to the right. She just couldn't do it. No. So, and it actually, she said, it kind of makes me feel off. Yeah. And I tried to do that. And I said, that's interesting. Because, the balance thing and so all of this was kind of making sense. So I left her the first day with working on her gastroc muscle. I said, stop stretching your foot. Stop stretching the tendon. Just whenever you can, just reach back there and massage that muscle, or put the ball underneath it, or, one of those little Franklin texture balls. Here, take it home with you, go, and let's do this and come back. So she made an appointment to come back, the following week. I said, just do those things and, let's go from there, and so she comes back a week later, looking at my notes here. She comes back a week later. And one of the things that was interesting was she made the decision to start, pulling herself over onto her right side.
So smart.
that was very interesting. Yeah. And so, and I said, so how does that feel? She goes, well, it feels really awkward. And I feel like my balance isn't very good. And I said, well, yeah. And I said, you have to think your system, your balance system is used to being over here, and, when so I said, just so show me what you've been doing, let's go with this. And so as she would move on to the right side, she made an attempt, you could tell that there was an attempt to like make her head, at least do something a little bit different, to
Mhm.
not be in that side bending and left rotated kind of position. She was trying to, I think she was forcing her head to straighten up because she saw it, in the
Yes.
video. And so now, of course, she's like, I told you, this person is like on. She wants, let's do this. And her balance was okay on the right. It still was not good on the left. And
Mhm.
but she
Interesting.
was, but she was making the attempt to get over there. So we just rechecked squat and bend over. And yes, it was slightly better.
Mhm.
She definitely had made the effort to, can I straighten it up and do this? And I said, how are the symptoms in your left foot? The left heel. And she said,
Mhm.
well, oddly enough, it is a little bit better. It's still
Mhm.
there. And I said, I wouldn't expect it to be gone.
No.
No, but there is a change. So maybe
Mhm.
some of this does have something to do with that. And if we can get you off of that left foot loaded all the time, perhaps it'll have an opportunity to kind of start doing its regeneration process and, the things, that it needs to do.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, but she said that, she thought that the rubbing the gastroc was hocus pocus until she noticed that after she did it, it did seem to help immediately. It didn't
Mhm.
last, but it seemed to help immediately. And I said, yeah, it's because your nervous system is telling that muscle to tighten up.
Yeah. All the
So
time.
it's, yeah, so, a combination of this work is going to help. So we did some, obviously we did some mobilization to the foot. I said, let's just concentrate on the foot first. We get
The
too
right
much
foot.
going on. Yeah,
Yep.
the right foot. So we did some mobilization there, and I did some taping,
Yep.
you
Oh,
know,
what kind of taping?
yeah, I did the kinesio tape on her just for a signal, because she tended to like go into eversion so much. So I
Mm.
taped her to where if she went into eversion, it would pull.
Yes.
So I wanted her to go into a little bit more inversion.
If you're looking more of a
Yeah, yeah,
supported foot. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it.
Just to get that. I think I'm talking backwards here. She would go into more of a supinated foot.
Ah,
So I wanted her to go more towards pronation.
pronation.
Okay, yeah,
Right. Got it.
yeah. I was thinking along the heel there, and I'm going to get everybody
Well,
confused.
it makes sense because if she's not loading that right side, it's going to
Yeah,
get stiff and lose options. That
yeah,
makes complete sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows when that got set up? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
Did it happen in the car accident? Did it
Mhm.
happen before that? Does she,
Right.
so I asked her, I said, your kids are teenagers, but remember back when you had your children, what side did you carry them on? And she immediately said, always to the left,
Yeah.
always on the left side.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's one of those things too. And so, and if you think about head and looking left and holding a baby, and then sitting in her desk
Yeah. You're
and
like,
looking left and typing right, and,
mhm.
so kind of these things, they all play a part. And the balance system, the ocular, cervical, ocular, vestibular system sets its game towards those needs.
Yes.
And so it's kind of like, yeah, and there's structural issues on the foot that could change. So we did that work and got her into doing some mini lunges to really create that dorsiflexion at the talocrural joint and keep her foot on the floor, and long toes, and did all of those exercises that we do. And then the exercise that you always talk about, put your hands on the wall. She couldn't do it with both feet because it hurt the left.
Oh, you mean sling squats?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and she couldn't releve
Yeah.
on that left foot because it just hurt way too much. She couldn't do
Mhm.
it. So we just did it with the right. We just held
Mhm.
on. We
Yeah.
grabbed two chairs and held on so that she could do the work on the right foot to get that right foot going,
Mhm.
and but offload the left foot. So, and then as we progress forward, rather than starting with balance training, what I did was I asked her to find a place where there's a pool, and because you need to get in the water.
Mhm.
And so the program that I gave her to start to load, because she could not do those eccentric exercises. And I have seen this time and time again with women with these tendons that are a little bit brittle because of loss of estrogen.
Mhm.
Eventually they can do the eccentric exercises. They have to learn how to load. That system needs to calm down first and then
Yeah.
load with kindness, is the way I put it. But basically what we did was I got her in the water and I told her, I said, your job is to just walk in the water. You go as deep as you can so that you can walk without symptoms. So that was number
Mhm.
one. Then
Yep.
as you can walk comfortably without symptoms, move into a little bit more shallow water.
Mhm.
and start. And then once it starts to bother you, move back into the deeper water. So we were grading the movement process. Yes, she's still on her feet walking. She wears
Yep.
something that's under her heel because it makes it a little bit better. I get that, but we still needed to have a bit of a concentrated program here. And then she moved into, eventually what she did in the deeper water was she moved into going up on her toes and coming down and doing that into more shallow and shallow water, less compression, less support. But in
Yeah.
the beginning, it was really, something that she could do. And then we eventually moved over to where she was on the step so that she could stand on the step, in the pool, like there were 4 steps, she said.
Yep.
So she could stand on the bottom step in the water and she could begin to work on doing the eccentric,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So, and you can also, if they don't have steps, you can have them do it with their foot. They can put their foot on the side of the pool and
Mhm.
lower their heel down and raise their heel up, holding onto the wall.
Yes.
So there's
Yes.
all kinds of ways to do this.
Mhm.
And it took about 6 weeks, but she got to where she had very little pain with walking, and only if she walked long distances or if she was tired or fatigued, which was very
Mhm.
interesting, so,
Mhm.
like if she had a really stressful day at work, she said, I can almost predict that it was going to be really hard to walk that afternoon. So
Mm.
that's when she would go back to the pool. She kind of self-directed herself.
Yeah.
Like, I know the days that I need the pool and I know the days that I can walk. And she
Mm.
figured out it was highly dependent on her, what was going on at work for her.
Interesting.
Yeah. And while we were doing that, and as she got better in that 6 weeks time, I went back and rechecked balance,
Yeah.
single leg stuff, meaningful lunges, those types of stuff. She was much better as far as being more symmetrical with her movements. She
Mhm.
still was having a little bit of balance issue. So we both made the decision, do you want to try to mess with your neck? Or you want to just leave it there? A lot of changes have gone on. And she said, I'd like to, that off feeling I don't like. It's better since I've been doing the pool work, but it's not where I want it to be.
Right.
And she wasn't even realizing it until, she knew about it. So
Mhm.
all we did in the beginning was, can you shift your computer screens?
Mhm.
Because she had one on the left and one in the middle. And I said, can you just shift
Mm.
them? Just, you don't have to go all the way to the other side. I don't
Right.
want you to do that. It's too much, but can you just shift them? And, she was like, I never thought of that. So, of course, like I said, she's on it. She went and shifted her computers, just slightly so that, she had a different visual input. And if we have a different visual input, that may change the way that the cervical spine behaves, especially the upper cervical spine.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So we did that, and eventually she shifted to where both computers were kind of at a V, but in front of her, so that she
Yep.
would have to look one way and look the other way, rather than turning her head. And then she found out that she was turning her head and her eyes. And, rather than going in and mobilizing that, I wanted to just see what would happen if we could actually change her functional, structure, that it would her body adapt, kind of in a slower way, because, she was already feeling off when we, kind of, did some tests and measures on her that first day. I didn't want to, I'm not going to go in and mobilize something and have them feel really off balance. I just thought, she started to make balance changes just by doing the work in the pool. Let's see what happens if we make the changes in the office.
Yeah. In the
And,
environment.
so she got to the point where she could really say, I actually can turn my head to the right now pretty easily, but I still feel like I can't side bend. So we just went in and did some mobilization there, to just kind of help her. And then I gave her the exercise with, with the belt around the neck.
Oh, like the
So
mulligan one.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
mulligan, you put the strap around the neck, just underneath the the AO joint, so up high, really high, with the right hand, just gently do some left side bending,
Mm-hmm.
in there, so that she could get that back. And she liked that. That was kind of a fun exercise for her. And and then, then I got her, of course, I know everybody's waiting for this. Then we started working with the Clock Yourself app, with the
Mm.
putting the clock on the wall and doing the head and holding the head still and doing the eyes, so
Yes.
that she could start to get and recalibrate, that vestibular ocular motor cervical ocular motor system,
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
and get that back for her. And, so that's what we did. And she did really well, but it took the 6 weeks of the, serious 6 weeks of offloading in the pool
Yeah.
work consistently to really be able to get movement in that tendon. And, because the Achilles doesn't get a lot of great blood supply.
No.
It doesn't. So,
No.
and she just needed to have that because nothing else was working. And she tried all the stretching. She had attempted the eccentric exercises and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, right. Because you treated, so just for the listeners, you mobilized the right foot, you taped the right foot, you immediately got her awareness of the fact that she was loading her left side. So the brain said, oh, let me, smart girl. She tried to get herself to the right. Then you got her in the pool doing different, repatterning exercises, and then some eccentrics. And then you started changing her environment at work to sort of get her her balance system, quote unquote, a bit better. Question: what happened to the urgency and frequency? Did that change at all?
That's a great question. And the answer is we did have to do a little tweaking there because she was a crazy coffee drinker. So that was adding into probably her allostatic load for her, stress-o-meter that was going on. And so she worked on bringing her coffee levels way down, replacing coffee with some herbal teas, just so she could have her cup,
Right.
It was more about the cup than it was about the coffee in many ways. We did a fluid diary, and she could see that around her coffee drinking was when the urgency frequency kind of kicked up more. So we just, kind of cut down and got her to drink some more water in between. Nothing crazy. Just, I told her, I kind of worked with her to drink to thirst and not drink just because. We've got some new literature coming out about that, which is very, very interesting. And we'll get into that and maybe the membership site at some point. And the person who's doing some of the research on that.
Interesting.
But anyway, got her to drink to thirst, and got her doing some, just little mindful things in between, during her work day, like when, don't get up at, after 2 hours and just race to the bathroom, get up, move around and see if you really need to go. Just like kind of like just get a little more mindful about it because it was kind of a pattern habit, busy, stressful day. So she started doing that. And then, so that plus the other stuff really helped bring her down. Now, did changing her balance and her head make her urgency frequency better? I think it's all such a big systems approach that I think they all go into it. Versus it's like, no, this fixed this and this fixed this and this fixed this. I can say for sure that the offloading really helped her regain the ability to move through, get that tendon moving better. I think that was an essential piece. And I think the rest of it just supported everything. So had we only just treated the foot, we might have made her a bit better. Maybe the pain would have gone away. But again, like we always talk about, tissues adapt for a reason. And so I don't know if we hadn't changed her, her head and neck, and gotten that balance system to recalibrate, if she wouldn't have just drifted right back over to the left side. There was such a strong pattern of movement for her.
I know, if you think about it, you're so on your left, something's got to get you to the right. Maybe her head was pulling her over there. The brain's not stupid. It'll just do what you need to do to center yourself. But I think it's interesting too, because people always say, it just drives me bananas why people don't look at this center of mass stuff. And sometimes it's absolutely not relevant to the patient, but that's why the history is so important. And that's the take home message. It really is so important. Just because they have tendonitis, heel pain, it's not plantar fasciitis. At the end of the day, you can put a label on it, but it's what's meaningful to them. And, doing the functional movements that you assess, she had the same pattern over and over again. So think about, you wanted to prove that the right foot wasn't the issue. Well, it's part of the issue. I would agree, it's the issue, and so, for therapists listening, it's just take the time. I know a lot of people, they're in different business models in clinics, but really ask the patient to delve into their injury history. If you do it during,
and just their like what their job is like and what they're what are they doing all day long, because what they're doing all day long is really what's forming that movement system to because the movement system is going to adapt to what our cognitive brain finds meaningful.
Yes.
So if our cognitive brain needs to sit and work at a computer, our movement system is going to adapt to allow us to do that. All right, and that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that we lose variance with with that. And so the idea between getting up a lot and moving around a lot in between can help kind of keep our movement system a little bit more nimble and have a little bit more variance in movement choices than kind of just drifting it in. But at the end of the day, we're human, and that's the way our system is set up. So it's like overcoming classical conditioning.
Exactly, that's exactly right. Yeah. It's like if we keep eating the same foods all the time, we're going to adapt. If we keep loading our left side all the time, we're going to adapt. It transcends much of human nature. So awesome. Thank you for that. That was great.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Podcast number 117. Drop us a line. Let us know your thoughts. Join us in our subscription so you can ask us anything. toughtotreat.supercast.com.
Yes, and also our email, our toughtotreat@gmail.com.
Yeah,
right. That's our email. We just got the Gmail.
Toughtotreat@gmail.com. If you have questions about the subscription, ring us there, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Toughtotreatpt.com.
No, tough to treat. You can see we don't, but we do look at this Gmail now. toughtotreatpt@gmail.com.
There we go. Sorry.
Drop us a line,
all right. Now, if we didn't confuse you enough, you know how to get in touch with us. Come find us.
Exactly.
And yeah, we'll see you the next time. Thank you.